America, planet Earth, what's good? This is your boy Codell, and welcome back to another episode of the Father's Gospel Podcast. I'm very excited today. We have Anthony Cancel, who is the mastermind behind a AI app called Pro Say Dad AI app, and we're going to be talking about his app and some of the other things that he's involved in when it comes to the family courts and parental rights. So, Anthony, how you doing, brother?
Awesome, man, and thank you for that warm introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm doing extraordinary. I want to say it's a pleasure being on here with you, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to have you on here and super excited to have you on. Been just really impressed with everything you're doing and just excited to get to network with people like you and yeah, all over the place. But all right, so go ahead and why don't you just give the people a little bit of your background on because you got this AI app for legal issues for the family courts and all that stuff. So what led you to creating this app? What were the circumstances that got you to where you are right now?
Okay, well. Thank you for the opportunity for that. Quick little kind of elevator pitch. I've been involved with family court and teaching pro se litigants for over 10 years. Like many of us in this community, I am a product, of family court. I went through my own ordeal about 14 years ago, back when the tender years doctrine was pretty prevalent. And, long story short, was a software engineer at Microsoft at that time. So
Okay.
it was very tech heavy. And, a 4 year custody battle ensued. Since then, I've dedicated, once I won, my promise was to myself and to my son to be a resource or the resource that I didn't have. And that was the genesis of Pro Say Dad. And basically providing what I like to call actionable advice, right? So not just supportive, which is important, but
Yeah.
to me, what I needed was, well, hey, how do I file something? What's a motion, right? When do
Right.
I reply? How do I answer? And I had a really hard time just finding a community, a blog or whatever to be able to give me that info. So, for the fact that obviously not only was I in IT already, but details is kind of my makeup. I was a psych minor in college,
Mm,
so understanding conceptuals and as a software engineer, it's very process orientated. I decided, well, hey, I'm going to start providing some of that service. So, long story short, once I won 50/50, went back to school, basically left my IT career, went back to school, became a paralegal. I
okay.
worked as a paralegal for a family law firm, had a brief run at state assembly in New Jersey. But
Nice.
ultimately, as I helped out dads, I came to the realization that change at that level, trying to change the cogs, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And we see that all
Right.
the time, right? And I felt that my talents and my resources were were better utilized in one-to-one connections and
Okay.
scaling that effort. And that was the launch of Pro Say Dad. I now have a public charity as well, the Pro Say Family Foundation. It allowed me to kind of scale.
Yeah.
And but throughout the years, I've kept up with obviously technology and with the introduction of AI into mainstream, because AI has been around for a while. I was
Right.
able to connect with some former colleagues and decided to spend about a year and a half developing the ProSay.ai, which
Okay.
was scaling even more, right? It's taking the principles that allowed me to be successful in my case, that's allowed hundreds and thousands of dads to be successful that I've helped with throughout the years and scaling that. And that's the birth of ProSay.ai.
Nice, nice. Okay, yeah, and I love the fact that after everything you went through with the courts, I love that you you realize that this is bigger than just you and your son or your children. This is something that's affecting the whole entire country. Because, and I mean, this is no disrespect, but and I understand why, but there's just a lot of fathers out there, once they get their success in the court, they kind of just want to check out, and hide away. And I totally understand it. The courts are super stressful, but me and my brother Kyle doing this podcast, we kind of have that same mindset as you, where we our goal is to not we don't want to pass the same system on right now to all the little kids that are growing up right now, especially little boys. Like, we want to end this now, so when our sons grow up, they're not having to necessarily deal with all the madness going on in the family courts. So yeah, yeah, we got a big mission ahead of us, and I like that you see that big picture. Okay, so you've got the company. How many people helped you put this app together?
So I had a core team of about 3 people that I
Okay.
relied on or I worked with closely back in the day with Microsoft. So my main goal at Microsoft was I was a access developer, software engineer, and
Okay.
I led what is called the flight team. So we would deal with the top 100 clients within the company, and
Okay.
I was able to connect with some of the folks that crossed up paths. So I would say I had a core team of about 3 people that helped me kind of put that together. And now we're in the process of scaling it even more. So like any software app or any technological advance, it's ever changing, right?
Right.
Definitely is
Yeah.
ever changing faster than family law is, and my vision and what I see is that completely revolutionizing what it means to be a pro se litigant, right? Because our biggest issue is the lack of knowledge, and even
Mm,
more so, the lack of the right knowledge, right?
right. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
we kind of see a little bit in our community, it's something that I myself went through, is there's a lot of emotions, that obviously there's an emotional situation,
Right.
and sometimes the same way a surgeon is not allowed to operate on a family member, a lot of times, when you are vested in it, you don't necessarily articulate your situations correctly. You may not ask the right questions, right? You're hung on certain issues that may be happening, and you kind of there's that emotional part that gets tied to it.
Yeah.
And when then we all kind of get together and then everybody's just kind of sharing their war stories, sometimes that kind of holds progress back. So with the advent of the AI and kind of raising that level, the hope is to kind of eliminate all that, and let's
Yeah.
just get real, right? Let's just get real about what you need to know, how you need to know it, when you need to know it, and what to do with that. So
Right.
that's the inevitable goal as we continue forward now.
Yeah, I love that, because me and Kyle, we're always encouraging dads to start working together on a bigger level. And and I get it. It's hard not to get wrapped up in your own story, but that's like one of our big messages. Like, this is not about the individual story. This is about all of us coming together and utilizing everything we've been through, our cases, to bring something bigger about. And yeah, and with like the AI app, I'm a huge fan. I don't want to get too off target, but I love AI. I love crypto. I think crypto and AI are doing, for finances and like knowledge, is what kind of the internet did for information, where the internet started decentralizing the flow of information. And I feel like AI is kind of helping take that to the next level, especially with like law stuff like that. I mean, I've got an attorney, and I don't necessarily myself feel comfortable representing myself in the family courts, but with this AI app and other things like that, it gives me the ability to at least have understanding of how the system works. And yeah, it's just it's a really beautiful thing. So I appreciate what you're doing, man.
No, I appreciate that, and man, just along those lines, I just had one of our members post yesterday that and this is when you know things are starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah,
Even before the AI, the AI app, you know, the overall principles of Prosay Dad is elevating what it means to be a self-represented litigant, right? Basically meaning you're going through this system on your own. Now, the reality is it's about having a pro se dad mindset. So whether if you're representing yourself or you have somebody representing you,
yeah,
somebody is still representing you, right? You know, you are your own attorney or you
yeah,
actually have somebody else actually as an attorney. Either which way, there's kind of a dual effect that happens. You are both a personal life dad and you have to be a litigant legal dad. The
right,
two are two different mindsets. And a lot of times, what we see is we will take a personal argument and think that our legal litigant dad is going to be able to use that argument in court. And he
right,
won't. He's going to get absolutely destroyed because
yeah,
it's not a legal argument. It may make sense outside of court, does not make sense inside court. But in vice versa, a legal argument is not necessarily going to help you co-parent with
right,
your child's mother, right? It may make sense in court, doesn't necessarily make sense out of court, right?
right, right,
So there's this translation that needs to happen back and forth, right? So our goal with Pro Say Dad is, well, let's empower you so that whoever you have representing you, whether it's you yourself or you have somebody else representing you, you understand what your litigant self or your attorney needs from
right,
you,
yeah,
right? So that as you prepare and as you go through your day-to-day activities, you understand, well, no, you know what, I can't send that email in that context, right? Because it's going to come to bite me in the butt. Now with the AI, that helps you curb that, right? Because you can
yep,
filter that through the AI, and it's going to say, no, 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 you don't want to send that kind of email, right? You also have situations where you'll say, well, you know what, I have a right to be at school at the school event or to pick up my kid. Even though I'm on supervised visitations, I have a right because that's my kid and Fourth Amendment and 14th Amendment, all the amendments. Everybody's right, everybody's fit, the whole nine. Well, now with the AI, right, you're able to go in there and say, hey, this is my situation. Can I go ahead and do that, right? And it's going to answer you, not the answer you want, but the answer you need,
right,
right?
right,
With all that being said, the ideal setup is even if you have an attorney, which, listen, I used to provide individual coaching. I would say 80% of my dads that would hire me all had attorneys
yeah,
because the issue is not whether you represent yourself or not. The issue is the translation of what happens on the legal side versus what's happening in real life.
right,
We saw that all the time at the law firm I was at, right? I was in charge of client intake, and my job was to basically take everything everybody was telling me and say, yeah, well, that's true, but we can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that. Obviously, with a certain to a certain degree, because a lot of people just did not know, right? So we just had a member yesterday say, hey, you know, he posted a question that he was concerned about his attorney because his attorney was saying, hey, well, he had false allegations. The state was actually going after the dad, despite the fact that CPS said dad did not do anything wrong. The state was proceeding to go after dad. And the dad's like, hey, my attorney thinks, I'm probably not going to win. It's like a 50-50. This is my situation. What should I do? Pump that into the AI. The AI came into what it's built to do, right?
yeah,
dives into statutes. Um, and I'll circle back a little bit on this if you don't mind,
Of
because
course, yeah.
um, all AIs are not the same, just like all cars are not the same, all phones are not the same, right? It, AI is just the solution, if you will, like any search engine, right? It's the algorithm, the secret recipe that makes the difference. So what we've been able to do is integrate basically what's worked over the last 10 years of who I am, what I represent, what my principles are, backed by successes, and then incorporates it to make sure that as it pulls all this data, these terabytes, right, these trillion lines of data, that it picks the right 200 lines of data that you need, right?
Right, right,
That is a tall order to say, hey, let me make sure that, like, if you type something in Google, you're going to get 3,000 websites. How
right.
do you get to the right website, right? So that's what we've built, right? So we're able to dive into specifically the statutes you need, and not only the statutes you need, but what parts of the statute you need, and then translate that and explain that in a manner that it then becomes actionable for you. And that's exactly what we did for this guy who has an attorney, who his attorney said, hey, I don't think we could win. We went ahead, we looked into, well, what does actually abuse mean statute wise, right?
Yeah,
Not what do I think it means, what does statute require for something to be termed abuse? One of the claims was what, that dad still put his hands on his daughter. Well, okay, well, guess what? There is statute to cover, limited physical interactions between a parent, as long as it's above clothing, as long as there's all these other requirements that I have no idea about, right?
right.
But the AI knows. So we get all this information together, and he says, I'm going to give this to my attorney. He comes back yesterday, and he's like, listen, the attorney used a lot of what we put in there, and we won, right?
Nice,
He's,
nice. Yeah,
we actually forged our defense based on the ideas and the information the AI gave us, and his closing argument was based on a lot of those points that if CPS didn't find anything, that raises the threshold of proof that the state needs to have, right? Because in doing so, if the state is going to be awarded, let's say, a guilty verdict here, then
yeah,
they are basically nullifying the expertise of CPS. They are
yeah.
nullifying the work that they do. And as such, you then put at risk all the other cases that CPS has found, because you're basically setting precedent, right?
Right, right.
And listen, that's an extraordinary strategy to use, and that they use. So to your point, it's great if you're a pro se litigant, self-represented without an attorney. And it's
Yeah,
great, and if not even better, with an attorney, because you can keep your attorney on check, you can
right.
help your attorney, and you can lower your billable hours, right? Because you can basically say, hey, I'll take care of that, here you go, and say all I need is basically for you to give me a rubber stamp. So thank you for that opportunity. No, it was a long, kind of winded, reply to what you said, but I thought it was a critical point to make.
No, that's good. I mean, I used the app a few weeks back to I asked it what questions should I ask an attorney that I'm interviewing to potentially hire, and it gave me some good answers. And I used it on a couple different attorneys, and it was actually day and night. I feel like I found a good attorney, and for me, I am going the attorney route. I've done like fully representing myself, but and I'm just speaking for myself. I had to kind of step back because I was like, all right, am I better investing my time into representing myself, trying to get all these laws in place, or get a basic understanding of the laws, invest my time into making money, and then find a good attorney and kind of help that attorney out. So that's the route I'm going. And this his app has definitely been very helpful for that. Cause I mean, before I found this app, I mean, I tried Chat GPT. It did work to a certain extent, but and when I first started doing Pro Say 3 years ago, it was it was not good. So yeah, I definitely it definitely knocked me back a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love that this is emerging. So
Listen, if you can get an attorney, get an attorney. I
yeah,
mean, by all means, I used attorneys, throughout my ordeal. I mean, you, there's this thinking, and it's one of the biggest fights I have with the community, and why for a long time I was basically the lone kind of wolf trying to help pro se litigants in court, because I and I'm sure you know this about me by now. I am big on, it's not that there's not corruption, there's not bias, there's not dysfunction that exists. I am okay, but then what, right?
right,
Okay, it's
right,
there, but then what? You still have to do something to get your kid, right? So it's it's not about, I have nothing against attorneys. I know, I mean, at this point, man, I've been in judicial trainings, I've sat in judges chambers. I mean, I've been all over the place.
yeah,
And I know a lot of great people, all facets of the process. And I gotta tell you, I'd say 90% of them, you know, definitely start out with the right intentions. A lot of them are just beat up. A lot of them are just tired, right? This is their daily grind, and so if the reality though is do attorneys get, you having an attorney, is it an edge? Absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
it's just common sense, right? I mean, we try to talk about, well, they're all in, the boys club and they all go golfing together. Of course they do. I mean,
right,
don't you do that in your business? Right? I mean, it's your
yeah,
work environment. This is their work,
right,
right? Attorneys make a living off of winning.
yeah,
You're gonna do whatever you need to do to win. You're gonna
yeah,
get on the judge's good side, right? You're going, hey, if you can donate legally, you're gonna donate legally, right? If you're gonna have a gala, you're gonna invite them. Of course you are, because it's what you do to support your life, to
yep,
support your livelihood, your kids, your household, and as opposed to coming at it from a, oh my God, look at what's happening, just be real with what everything is and understand how it all works, and then
right,
utilize how it works to your advantage. So if you can get an attorney, get an attorney. However, make sure you're educated enough to understand what he should kind of be doing, what he shouldn't be doing, right? That you have the resources that you can hold him accountable, that he doesn't think like, oh, well, I don't have to really put, a response together here because this guy has no idea what I'm talking about. No, like any business, right? You take your car to a mechanic, what do you want to do? You want to make sure, right? That he's
you
going to
got a
do
good mechanic.
exactly right, that he's going to do
Yeah,
his job. And how does that make, how do you force that mechanic, to make sure he does his job? By the mechanic feeling, hey, this guy knows a thing or two about cars,
right.
right?
It's like all aspect. It's in all fields of life. I
All
mean,
fields of life. You want to buy a house? Same
right,
thing, right? So
yeah,
you want to go in there, you want to understand that, yeah, you can't call this a bedroom, right? This isn't a seven-bedroom house, right? There's only two rooms that have closets in it, which is the legal standard for an actual legal bedroom, right? So you can't be charging me $300,000 more because you're
right,
calling these rooms, these great rooms, or these living rooms as bedrooms, right? So everything you do, you have to be an educated consumer.
yeah,
Everything, anything you
yeah,
buy. Somehow we feel that when it comes to here, the attorneys are going to be our savior, that the
right,
judge is going to be our savior, the gal, the mediator is going to be our savior. No, they're going to do their job. So they make
yeah,
sure they get paid, and they don't care about you. They don't lose,
right,
and that's okay. That, again, we kind of tend to feel like, oh my God, and the attorney doesn't even care, and he didn't even. Yeah, do you care about your clients? Right?
Right,
You go
right.
home and say, "Hey, I wonder if Bob from Motor World is doing well tonight." No, right? Like the minute they walk out your door, they're gone.
Yeah,
Same
no,
thing
it's
here.
you got to be able to accept. I mean, that's huge. You got to be able to just accept that reality. And I mean, as far as attorneys go, I look at attorneys like all other groups, communities, or whatever of individuals. You've got good people, you've got bad people in there. So there's some good attorneys, there's some bad attorneys, and you sometimes you just kind of got to weave your way through and figure it out. And it is important that you know what you're dealing with as far as the system. I mean, okay, you're aware the system's highly dysfunctional, but like you said, you still have to deal with this system. So you have to teach yourself how to maneuver through it emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all that type of stuff.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
now so it looks like you've got about you've got three websites, right? You got ProSay Dad AI.app, and then what were the other two? Dad Connect.
Correct. So yeah, so we have what I call our main pillars of the Prozac ecosystem, the tips of the iceberg, the ones that people see or outward facing are about five, right? So we have the Prozac Dad group, which in and of itself, I mean, there's probably about 50 different subgroups or specialty groups that are tied to that.
Okay.
A lot of them are visible, some of them aren't. And so that's within the Pro Say Dad. We have the Pro Say Family Foundation, which is our nonprofit, wing, if you will. That we're able to bring in our fully tax deductible donations to help support, a lot of those initiatives, which will include, especially this year, providing financial assistance to dads, providing housing assistance, and support assistance, and also looking at some career stuff there. We have obviously the Pro Say Dad AI app, which is the culmination kind of all of that a little bit, on the legal side. Dad Connect, which is something we should be having back up within the next couple of weeks. The intent behind Dad Connect is creating a marketplace where members can leverage and put their services and products in
Mm,
one location, one central location for other members to basically support, right? So
okay.
if, you know, I knit and I'm able to do, and I'm thinking about my wife, but if I knit and I'm able to create things,
Yeah.
hey, let me put that kind of like the Amazon for the, shared parenting community. So that's the intent with Dad
Okay.
Connect. And then ProSay.x, that's a YouTube initiative to really collaborate and bring a lot more trainings available within the ProSay Dad group level 3. We've started weekly
So would
training.
that be like video training
Absolutely.
tutorials or awesome.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So actual
Cool.
true video training. So we started at level 3. We do have some stuff on ProSay Dad X, but we've started some trainings on the level 3 group, and so that's the main kind of tips of the iceberg of all the pillars of what I call the ProSay Dad ecosystem.
I love it. And you guys got what, about 10,000 members and growing right now?
Well, officially, in the main level 3, it's 17,000.
Nice.
We have probably throughout everything, probably closer to 50,000. Uh,
Okay.
what we deal with a lot is we do have a lot of folks that try to be kind of unseen, if you will, but a lot of it is like many of the other groups out there where, you know, people are just starting out, just trying to get information. So that's what we kind of focus on. The level 3 group, it's something have tried to, and it's I'm not doing a good job of it. I actually only wanted about 9 to 10,000 members in there, and
Okay.
I've tried to do a hard job of keeping it to that, um, because my goal is to create Spartans, right? Is
Right.
It's
The
not the
elite
numbers.
fighting force.
Exactly right. It's not the numbers. I think I'm probably unique in that, right? Everybody's always trying to get the numbers. Numbers don't do anything but to me dilute, right? Because, you know, me having to retrain 100 dads versus just train one who's ready to go and wants to,
Right.
um, just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for them. Doesn't do anything for anybody, right? Especially in our community, there are various folks and various groups that do various things, and I try to keep what we do to just pro se training, right, and pro se education.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I mean, having a lot of people is cool, but having a smaller group could also have its benefits because I think sometimes with anything it gets too large. I mean, this is just the world in general. You're always going to have leaders, you're always going to have followers, and sometimes you need those people that are built to lead. You need them to be able to kind of have their own space to put the things together with other individuals that are kind of on the same wavelength to really execute and get things done. So, yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, along those lines, I mean, I do a podcast called The Father Speaks Out. Now,
Okay.
see, that's on the flip side. So that we have a reach of about 1.8 million people,
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
yeah, so we just started up on Spotify, and that's in collaboration with the Hurt Family Advocacy,
Okay.
and so that's something where that goes a little bit more into pushing the limits, if you will, into change and those kind of discussions, constitutionality, and that kind of aspect, and the true kind of horrors of family court. So there is a place for that too, right? Because there is awareness that needs to happen. There is boots on the ground that you need to make certain things move forward. So absolutely, there's a need for both.
Yeah, as far as awareness and just the culture in general, are you start do you do you feel like you're starting to notice a shift? Do you feel like mainstream society is starting to become more aware of what's going on with the family courts and all that stuff? Or do you still think most people really have no clue on how bad it is out there?
Well, it depends on where you stand, right? I think that for the most part, people still don't have, any idea, and if they do, which is something that I'm trying to be more present in, and if they do, I think that there's a need to understand that we don't need 50-50 laws to have 50-50, right? My concern with all the legislation pushes is that people then think that, well, that's all we need to pass. And the reality is even if 50-50 passes in every state, you still need to know how to make that apply to you, right? You still,
Right.
every one of those bills, and I believe there's 5 or 6 at this point, has exceptions, to it. And the only thing that ever happens and the only thing that's ever guaranteed is the goalpost is always going to be changing.
Right.
And when you get a victory, a new loophole will open up. And, a lot of times I feel that, we're kind of have carrots dangling in front of us. And we kind of believe our own Kool-Aid. We kind of believe our own rhetoric and our own talking points. And, it's just like, as I call it, echo chamber, right? Especially within the community. So I think that we need to do a better job, and it's something that we within Pro Se Den and Pro Se Family have been focused are going to be focusing on this year is getting these success stories out just as much because we hear a lot of what doesn't work and we
Right.
hear a lot of you know why all of this change is needed, which is true, but we to me it's more effective to start seeing that what dad's doing, and do I even want to bother going into court because I'm gonna waste hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I'm gonna waste all of this, and dads are starting to to kind of get some momentum. So I think that I think legislator wise, it's a good political point. I think is where we're getting. Like I think legislators have gotten to where, hey, this is a good selling point to get dads
Right.
to vote for us. Is it making meaningful change? I don't know. I mean, it's been to me, it's kind of been the same for the last 14 years. To be honest, I mean, we've had these discussions forever. I mean, I remember
Well, I
the
mean, I feel like one of the biggest issues is just the messaging a lot of times from our side. Too many dads get caught up in anger. And I mean, I completely understand, been there, done that, feel that. But I think we have to do a better job of the way we present our messaging to the people. And so it resonates with them more because I mean, there's surveys here in Washington, like 78% of the state overwhelmingly supports 50-50 custody laws. But I just even with that, like, you give them the survey, people, "Yeah, I support 50-50 custody laws," but they're still really not aware of what's going on out there in the family courts unless they've gone through it. And so, yeah, it's just interesting. I feel like we still need to work on our messaging, make it more digestible for people, and also just make sure we don't get to like I'm all for calling out the 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 corruption, the bad stuff that's going on, but we still have to present the message to the everyday people where, hey, if we do this, this is not just going to benefit dads, but this is going to benefit society as a whole. We're going to have less people, getting in trouble with the laws if they're stable families, women will benefit from this as well. And I think that's kind of the direction we need to go with the messaging to where we can bring as many people into the tent or whatever as we can get. So,
I agree. I agree. And I think we're getting there. I think I mean, listen, I remember again when I was I want to say almost like the sole voice in that dads can win in court and let's train them and man did folks come at me for that, and now ironically you have some of those biggest folks now offering courses and now offering coaching for dads in court, right? And so I see that flip, and I hope it's for good reason, right? For a true belief that dads can win and not just an opportunity to cash in on that, if you will.
yeah,
um
it's probably a little bit of both out there.
exactly. I mean, which I listen. It's understood, and that's what it is. And I don't think it's why you hired an attorney, right? I mean,
Right.
I have dads that'll say, "Man, I'll pay an attorney $100,000 if you can guarantee me that you're gonna win, or at least try," right?
Right. Right.
So, so I never see that as an issue, and I've always been okay with that. I just think that the messaging is, I think, finally starting to at least turn to, yes, dads can win, and education is important, which has been one of my main missions overall. So I'm really glad to start to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just I mean, in the world of social media, because there's definitely and this goes beyond the family courts. There's there's definitely a bit of a culture war going on right now in the sense of between men and women.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating watching it all play out and how it's just slowly morphing and mutating. Because I've noticed this last year there's a lot of women now that are starting to emerge on the internet that are starting to speak up for fathers' parental rights. And it's we're living in very interesting times. And I'm I'm enjoying the ride. Sometimes the ride's painful, but I am looking forward to seeing how this all turns out. So, as far as everything you're doing, do you have an ultimate goal? Like what's your big picture? Like what are you trying to accomplish long term?
That a dad can wake up and just think about, hey, what do I want to do with my kid today,
Yeah.
without having to worry about any repercussion whatsoever.
Right.
without having to worry about being called into court, without having to worry about, well, I got to do this right, I got to do this way or that way, without having to worry about not having his kid there, not to be able to do that. My ultimate goal, and I want to thank God, and I am blessed and grateful
Amen.
to God for being where I am today. And I even want to thank my son's mom. You know,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
I'm in a position now where just yesterday, he had his first soccer game of the season, and she's actually sitting kind of further away. I'm sitting next to her husband, and we're talking, and my wife is there, and it's as if nothing. And that is my goal for every dad, and that goes beyond having to win in court. That goes beyond. I'm not looking to help dads win in court. It may seem kind of contradictory. I'm looking to help dads scare the other side enough that they stop going to court and start
Right.
showing up as co-parents.
Right.
I'm not looking to build lifelong litigants. You have members in the community, man. I mean, they run circles around me when it comes to possibly putting some of these motions together, and these filings. I was never a big proponent of that because filings don't do anything. We celebrate, all of these motions and filings and who we're suing and what we're doing, and but yet we don't yield anything from that. Yet,
Right.
we're not any much closer to mom or to our kids. So to me, it's an interesting, exchange. It's an interesting exercise. But my goal is to just have dads be dads. That's
Yeah.
that's that's when, I feel the best is when I have a dad that does leave, if you will, the community, that ends up winning and now can just live, and I can see that, I can appreciate that. I chose not to because, especially back then, man, 50-50 wasn't even really even a thing. I mean, this was 14 years ago. We're
Yeah.
still under the almost the tender years, doctrine. Although it was outlawed, you know, um, it was still, I mean, it's still kind of very much
I
alive in
say
many places.
it still ran tender years. I mean,
Yeah.
technically it's now interest of the best child or best interest of the child, but it all kind of seems the same to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, my goal was just like, my goodness, the insignificance that I felt,
Yeah.
the absolute, like, what do you mean that I can't do this or I can't do that, and that, the process is what it is,
Right.
you know, um, and maybe it was my, you know, software engineering, self, and just looking at it from a process oriented, perspective. I just couldn't fathom that, and I didn't want my son to have to go through that should he ever be in the position that I was, and
Right.
and that was it. And I say the story a lot. The first one that really kind of got me thinking, like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe this is something, was my wife's, girlfriend at the time. She had a coworker who her husband
Yeah.
was going through a custody battle, and I was just kind of helping him out, and he ended up being kind of like the first official dad that I helped once I won, and he ended up getting sole
Nice.
custody, and his kids in college now, and um, that's really when I really understood, man, there's nothing really out there, and just like how I was lost, it's not just me, and
Yeah.
so that's my end goal, is to just have dads be dads without having to worry about going to court. Look, I haven't been to court, man, I think since I got 50-50. It was a consent order. The judge said to her, uh,
That's what I'm trying to get.
exactly right. The judge said, listen, I think you want to go back and structure a deal, because if I have to rule, then you're not going to like my ruling. And that was it. We were done. She was done. We were done, and it was the best thing that happened for both of us. For her, for myself, obviously for our son, and you know, that was it. We next time we went to court was we had to change his schooling because of COVID. We both
Okay.
agreed. I drafted up paper, she signed it, we faxed it in, and like, and that's what I want for
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah. Of
even for moms, because what I've learned,
course. Yeah.
yeah, is that listen, while of course she could have done better, I could have done better, but the reality is, and I know this from being at the law firm, the system is almost built, whether intentional or unintentional, to pin you against the other.
Oh yeah. It wants to
To-
breed conflict.
Yeah, well, but then to me, and this is where I kind of, veer off from kind of, let's say, the overall or the general thinking is what happens is, and I know this just firsthand being there, is you have a client that comes in, and it's literally what happened with us, by the way. You have a client that comes in that says, "Hey, I just separated. Here's the papers. How does it look?" Well, the attorney gets the papers and he looks at it. Now, the attorney is coming at it from a perspective of knowing, well, if you don't have this clause in here, you don't have this clause, you don't have this, and this, then you may end up getting screwed. Now, that may or may not be true, but you are paying me as your attorney to protect your best interest,
Right.
your kid's interest, not the other parent's interest. You, my paying client's best interest.
Yeah.
I then tell you, all right, well, this is what we're going to add. You're going to take out this 50-50 because this is just isn't going to work. The judge is not going to accept this. You're going to put this in. You're going to do that. You're going to do that. Okay. As somebody who doesn't know, what do? I listen to my attorney. It's exactly what happened in our situation. Now we ship off that reply or that motion. Now, guess what happens when the other side gets it, right? Now, him and his attorney or her and her attorney are going to review it. Say, well, no, no,
Right.
no, this isn't going to work because you're gonna need more than just 60-40, right? So now you counter, they say no, you say no. Now, oh no, hey, but let me ask you a question. Was there ever any time when did he ever put his hands on you? Like, did he
Right.
make you feel uncomfortable? Were you ever scared? Right? Did he have that devil in his eyes? I'll never forget that. Did he have that devil look in his eyes? That you thought for a slight second,
Yeah.
I think something may happen here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I kind of remember one time when, boom,
Yeah. They feed it. The
yeah,
attorney. Yeah. The
because his
system
goes to
feeds
win,
it. Right.
right?
Right.
So that's what I mean. It's almost like now, is it self fulfilling, self rewarding? Of course, because now he gets more money, right? He gets more billable hours and so forth. But let me tell you something. There's no lack of work for attorneys. Like,
Right.
we
Right.
turn down people all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no lack of work for attorneys. So, this notion that I got to try to increase my billable hours, I got to say, I don't necessarily buy that. What I do buy though is I got to do whatever I need to do to win because the more victories I have, the more I can charge.
Right.
So the less work I have to do to make more money, like every other business in our life. So I'm gonna win almost at all cost,
Yeah.
right? And that's
That's
all it is. You're a product. You are
that's
a product.
That's
So
the crazy thing and tricky thing about it too, because it's like, I mean, I get why to a certain extent you have to treat it like a business, but it's still different because you're dealing with families and their lives, and so
no,
it
but
can
it's
just
different
get
to
really
you.
messy.
See, it's
Right.
different.
Well, right,
That's the
right,
problem.
right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and that's exactly it, right? We come at it, and man, this is my life on the line here, right?
Right.
This is my livelihood, my kids.
Yeah.
I expect you to be up at 4 in the morning, Mr. Attorney, working on this motion. What do you mean you're going on vacation? How dare you? How
Right.
dare you? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the attorney has no idea. But dude, you're a file. You're a file number to him. Right now, listen, we get invested. Of course. You get invested in your cases. But and I've been blessed because I've been able to be part of all parts of the system. When you're on the other side, even in judges' chambers, right? Like I'll never forget, right? So sitting there, the clerk comes in, right, with a stack. It's like this high. All right, what's on the docket today? All right, well, we have case number 2244555. Da 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 da. Great. Okay, next. 2211748. Next. 3345. Dude, and they're just going right case by case by case by case so they could do initial reviews.
Yeah.
He could be somewhat prepared for what he's going to be. Judge, what do you mean you didn't read my entire 4,000 page filing? Right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. No, I mean, we have to, and this is why the easiest way to win is, first of all, just to accept what reality
Right.
is to understand. And I'll say this all the time. Here's one simple tidbit that makes absolute difference.
Okay.
Everybody has text messages, emails, right? Countless emails that I'm going to submit for evidence, right? So we put an exhibit together, Exhibit A. Exhibit A has my vacation thread issue, right? And
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
showing all the conversation between me and mom. The point I'm trying to make within that exhibit is like 8 pages in because it's
Right.
the last part of the thread, right? So one of the things that I would have my guys do is no, you got to invert that, right? Because he's not going to sit there and read 7 pages to finally
Right.
get to the point you're trying to make.
Right.
So you almost have to give an executive summary immediately. Because if we understand his day to day, that that literally he's just going to pick up my file folder, open it up, and maybe look at a couple of pages.
Yeah.
Well, guess what we want to make sure we have in those first couple of pages, right?
The information he actually needs. That's it. Like,
That,
yeah.
right? Does he want to
Short and
know
sweet to the
about
point.
Aunt Bobby, who said that the daughter did? I mean, is it relevant? Sure, it could be. It could
Yeah.
be. But does it move the needle enough? Does it satisfy not what I think is important, but what he thinks is important? Does it say it in the manner that he needs to hear it, not in the
Right.
manner that I want to say it, right? We would win more if people just traversed to the other side and
Right.
then pulled the information over as opposed to imposing the information forward, right? Is get to your enemy, know how they work, and then relay the information back over to your troops.
Yeah.
That would be a lot quicker, a lot easier than you trying to strategize and force your way in, right? You want to Trojan horse it almost. So that I think is such a simple yet powerful concept that accept that you are nobody.
Yeah.
Be okay that you are nobody
Yeah.
because you're nobody to your mechanic, to your realtor, to your dentist, to your doctor.
Basically, accept that the world does not care about you. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
yeah.
it.
That's
It's no
it.
different.
Right.
Treat it the way you treat every other part of your life.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Because yes, this is your life, but it's only your life. That's it.
Right.
They don't, they will do as much as they can for how much you pay them, right? They will care.
Yeah.
That is it, right? Like even like a physical, if you're gonna work out, if you go into the gym and you hire a coach,
Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, he's gonna just care as long as you keep paying him. And
Right.
and
Right.
and listen, it's not to say he's not gonna give his all during that time, of course.
Yeah.
Of course he is, right?
Right.
But ultimately, that's why it's on you, though. That's why we can't look to that fitness trainer as our solution.
Right.
As I always say, you need to have a solution established, and now you just need the enforcement of that solution, right? Same thing. You need to understand what I have to do. Help me understand what I have to do. Don't push me to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
Because if I need you to push me to do what I have to do, well, guess what happens when you leave? I don't do
You
what
ain't
I
gonna
have to
get
do.
nothing done. Yeah, you're not really gonna get anything done. Shows that you're not serious about it anyways. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm big on that. I'm very organized. I got my to-do list. Like, all right, every day I come home, I
Yeah.
work on my kid's book for a half hour to an hour, then I do this and then this and this, and just yeah, it keeps things moving along. And honestly, it keeps my mind nice and sane and just organized. So, but all right, well, yeah, I mean, do you have any well, let me go back a little bit. So earlier you were talking about like dads, some dads filing these lawsuits and all these different filings. And so I do think like lawsuits and stuff like that can be helpful, but
Mhm.
I think dads are going about it in the completely wrong way. And what I'm trying to tell dads is like, and I know more than I can count. You have all these dads out there who are individually going after the courts by themselves, trying to individually file these lawsuits or whatever. And I tell dads, I'm like, it's the court's getting to play whack-a-mole with you because it's just you're just one individual. You're over here, okay, you got this guy, he's in this other state doing it, but it's literally just one person at a time popping their head up. It's easy for them to whack that one mole down. So if you are going to pursue like a lawsuit or changes in the law or whatever, the best way to go about it is getting organized with a large group of people that actually kind of have one vision in place and are able to emotionally put their personal stories to the sides and bring everything together. And I feel like that's the biggest struggle with the whole lawsuit thing and trying to change the laws is most people I see out there are just trying to do it by themselves instead of building a network of like-minded people to get it done. So I don't know. Do you got any opinions on that? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole class action route is I think definitely powerful. I am one that believes win, get your kid first, then
Right.
change the system, right? I actually just put a couple of posts out in the group today. Again, if we look at, let's apply it to another area in our life. And let's
Okay.
just say, um, we're going to sue our employer in our industry. I don't know. Let's say you're a salesman, a car salesman, and you're gonna sue Ford because you feel that Ford wronged you in some way or another.
Right.
That's fine. You can go ahead and put that through. But what do you think the likelihood is that another dealership is going to hire you?
Right.
Right? Very
Yeah.
unlikely, right? What do you think you getting a break when you're gonna go buy your next car at some other dealership or even at a Ford dealership, a
Yeah.
different location for Ford? What do you think the likelihood of you getting a break in the pricing and the programs is going to be?
Right.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
Your credit's going to have to be absolutely perfect, right? You're going to have the entire deposit, right? A trade-in's going to have to be exactly what it's worth, right? You are going to be treated to the letter of the law.
Yeah.
So my thing is, why would you want to put that in front of you while you still need a car, right?
Yeah.
Get the car
Yeah.
first,
Yeah. Makes
then
sense.
go. Or, you know, figure out some other type of a solution, right? So basically, I it's not that I'm against that. My goal and what we strive for is My job is to get you to the car
Yeah.
this weekend, to get you to your kid this weekend. Because guess what? For you to buy the car at the best price, you're gonna have to do work. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
study, right? You're gonna have to study, you know, sales techniques and presentation techniques, and you know. So why would I want you spending time that we don't have, and energy and emotion on learning something different that even if you're successful or not in it, it's not going to make your opportunity of buying a car any easier, and actually may make it.
Here comes Max.
It is gonna make it harder.
Whoa! Yeah! Was that fun?
God, I'm an to my very last breath. Bless my son, my love never ends.